Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts. Today I would like to build a storage container with a sort of slant for my Kuretake ZIG pens. These are quite expensive, and ever since I bought them I have been researching how to store them. And at the moment I'm keeping them in the original container. I just cut the flap off so they're easily accessible. But it's not really practical, the container, because it's got some sort of plastic pens on the inside, and sometimes these pens get caught in it. And also I'm always a bit conscious that they actually might fall out because they're actually slanting that way. And my idea was to build a container where they're slightly set up and I can easily grab them. I have gone ahead and written myself a little sketch of what I want to do. And I've also prepared a few things. So the first thing I have created already, but I will show you how to do that, is I have made so far 8 compartments. I will have to do 9, so I'll show you how to do 1. This is inspired by the fact that the original container basically holds 4 pens in one compartment there. So I thought I'd copy that idea. I don't need to have an individual container for every single pen, and this still keeps them neat and tidy. So I quickly show you how to create these. For the compartments you need some sort of sturdy cardstock. I'm using this one here. This is from B&M actually, sorry about the rustling. And this is 210 GSM. I wouldn't go any lower than that. But it's cheap and cheerful. You see that you've got 32 sheets for £2, and it's good enough to craft with. Yeah, so I just picked that one, and I like the colour of it, and it will go with my outside colour. But I like to be resourceful, so I want to show you how to cut at least 2 compartments from one A4 sheet. So this A4 sheet needs to be just under 6 inches wide. So I'm just going below here. This is my 6-inch mark here, so I'm just going below that. You really just want to have a slither less, and I'm just cutting that down. So this is scrap, but I can use that for another project. And then I'm cutting this panel here into 2 panels that are 4 1/4 inches wide. So I'm just, at the moment I'm only needing 1, but obviously with the original ones I cut 2, and then I've got a little panel again which is scrap. After that we need to do some scoring. I've got the scoring measurements here. So you score, this is on the length that is just under 6 inches, and you need to score at 1/2, 2 3/4, 3 1/4, and 5 1/2. So just doing that here now. So at 1/2, mine goes from this side, it doesn't really matter. 2 3/4, 3 1/4, and 5 1/2. Where are we there? So, and then I'm also marking this panel here on the outside, because this is slightly shorter than this one, and this needs to go on the inside. So I'll quickly show you how to glue these together. You just need to fold and burnish all the score lines. And fold them on first and then do the burnishing. Definitely helps to burnish them, and the compartments are a bit flatter. So, and then you fold the big panel and the small one over that has got the cross on it, or that you've marked, and you put some glue onto this panel. Let me zoom in just a little bit more so you can see that. So fold it on this score line here, and I've got this one lying here next to the other one, and I'm using my Cosmic Shimmer Quick Grab Glue. That's the best one for building things, I find. The Koala glue is good for giving it strength, but this one is the one that you want if you want this to grab straight away. So I'm folding this one over, and I'm going over with my bone folder to connect this. If you've got a bit of residue, you can just take it off, but that will be mostly hidden anyway. So then let it pop up a little bit so you're sure that it doesn't stick anywhere at the bottom. And that's all you need to do for the compartments, and obviously leave it to dry. If you have any pieces that are hanging over, this sometimes comes with my cardstock, because as soon as you put a score line in, it actually expands a little bit. So you can just cut these off. It's a bit weird sometimes. You think you've measured it correctly and it should work out, and then this happens, but that's fine. It's all on the inside. It just makes it a little bit easier when you stick these together afterwards. So I will check my others in a moment. So I like mine to face all the same way. So where I've got the double panel here, I just keep those to the right and the open part facing to the top. I find this always gives a neater finish. So rather than sort of working out mathematically how wide this has to be, I thought the best thing would be to actually measure it once I've built the compartments. So I suggest you do the same. You can already glue them together if you want to, but I thought I'd measure this. See, in my head it was 6 1/4. Obviously it's not, because I'm not very good. So this is, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will just take my pastel pencil here, and I will just mark this on my ruler, and this will help me in a moment. I don't want this width, I want it to be a bit wider anyway, but that I think makes it easier for me to work this out. So I'm going to write down the measurements for myself, and then I come back to and show you what you need. For the bottom piece that creates the slope, you need a piece that is 8 7/8 by 5 1/4. So I cut that from another A4 piece of cardstock. So, and we need to do some scoring on the scoreboard, and some I'd prefer to do on a separate silicone mat because it will be diagonally. So here we just score at, this is the long edge obviously, we score at 1. And then you turn this upside down and you score at 1 again. So, and one thing I forgot, also make a little mark here at 1/2. And with this one I just move it over to 8, the score line, and then I can see 8 1/2. That gives me the 1/2 inch mark as well. So I've got that on both tops there. And now I'm getting my silicone mat to add the other score line. So on my silicone mat, which is just a kitchen mat that I cut into a few pieces, I'm connecting this pencil mark here with the bottom of that score line. So I'm putting my metal ruler down here. I'm setting it a bit aside so I can still see both marks, because my bone folder is not super thin. I'm just putting pressure on there, and I'm doing the same on the other side, from that pencil mark to the bottom of that score line. So, and then I need to go on my trimmer. I will eyeball this. I will now cut a flap that is 1/2 inch wide. So basically from here you can mark 1/2 inch down there if you want to, and go down there like this. As I said, I'm going to eyeball this with my guillotine. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a little flap that we need to glue this down, and the same on the other side. So from the top there to a 1/2 inch mark down there. Now we need to burnish and fold these 2 score lines, or 4 score lines rather. By the way, it doesn't matter whether it's at least with my plain paper, whether you do a mountain or a valley fold. You can see it's not super quality paper because it does warp a little bit there, but it doesn't matter. Don't ask me where the stain is coming from, but again, it doesn't matter because that will be mostly hidden. So one thing that's left to do, that's the nature of this fold. We need to take some wedges off here at the top. So I'm just, again, eyeballing this. I'm just cutting a triangle off here and another one on this side. I don't think we need one down here. No, that's fine, that folds in. So, and the idea is we still need to cut a bottom piece, and I also realise we haven't got anything that covers the front, so I will quickly create that. My idea is to cut it possibly from the pattern cardstock, but if you can see this now, this gives us the slant to glue the other pieces on. So I will maybe even find some sturdier cardstock, but I will quickly figure the measurements out. For the base plate, I'm going to use my 300 GSM. I think it might be useful to have some sturdier cardstock. And I've cut that to 6 7/8 by 6 1/4. And I've also marked the 6 1/4 here with pencil so I don't get mixed up because they're really close, these measurements. So, and on the 6 1/4 edge, we need to score at 1/2 and 1. Also, I forgot to mention, when you have cut this to 6 7/8, make sure it fits in between your two score lines here. So when you fold this up, make sure it fits in. I actually had to cut mine down just a little slither, just this much, so it fits in between. You don't want this to be too wide, and then it sort of distorts the shape here. So these two score lines, we just need to just get this out of the way. Just need to fold and burnish these. So, and one will be the front of that bottom there. We can decorate that later. And then we've also got this flap here. And this flap, I'm going to cut off 2 wedges just so that it'll fit in there more neatly. So, and what we can do now on this base plate, we can glue this here down. So I haven't quite figured out yet what the best way to do is. I think the best way would be to glue this flap here onto the panel here where we've got the wider bits here, if you can see what I mean, because this is angled here at the top. So I think this would be best to do that first. Get that straight. I will actually turn it this way around, and again I'm using my quick grab glue. Going to the front edge here, that's the front, without hoping that it won't ooze out, and placing that, as I said, in between the 2 score lines on the side, so it will definitely fit in between. Just to move away a little bit. With the quick grab glue, you've got a moment to rearrange it, but not much. So I'm placing it right next to the score line so that when I fold it over, it looks really neat here. So just removing that glue, and now I can open it up and press it down from the inside as well for it to adhere. I could actually, thinking about it, could have added some flaps here, but I forgot completely about that. I think it will be fine by the time it sits inside the compartment there. Yeah, especially because I cut it at an angle. never mind. So now we can put glue on these pieces here, so on the two flaps. And this is probably a bit fiddly now because we need to get this in the right position, because it's easy to misalign that. Oops, stuck that in my, need a bit more there on the edge. Although most of it will be hidden in with a outside anyway. So we now need to put this over. The important thing is that you align it in the back. Don't get confused with the front, because we cut that at an angle that will probably not fit anyway. So we want the back to fit. So I'm just pinching this down a little bit. You can actually pinch both layers there. And I'm pressing this in. Can you see what I'm doing? I need to do the same on the other side. Again, aligning it with the back. That is fiddly. It's difficult to show as well on camera. So push it to the back and then press it down here in the front. And the tricky thing is that we've got the back open, but we can't really get in at the moment to use a bone folder, maybe a little bit. But make sure it's adhered to the front first. So I'm trying to get in here a little bit, press it down, and then maybe press it down there. Doesn't want to adhere here, so I'm trying to apply a little bit of pressure. Yeah, I think that's fine now. So as I said, if I had created some flaps, that would have been different, but again, I think that will disappear in the casing, and the back is open, but that doesn't matter. So I'm leaving that to sit for a moment. It's got a bit of a funny angle now. I might have to press these ends into shape, but for now I just leave this to dry. This has dried now for a minute or so. I will put a little bit of glue here in the back where it wants to gape open. It doesn't really matter, but I think it'll hold the shape a bit longer if I put a bit of glue in there. So I can just press that down there. That'll be fine. So I've already off camera stuck 3 of these together. That was really simple with a quick wrap glue. I've just put it on the side and just stuck the next one right next to it. I can show you with the next round. And I can place these now onto that layer here. So again, using my quick wrap glue, and I'm really mindful now going right to the edge, especially the one that sits in the front, because otherwise that'll show. So if I keep this at the front, I want glue all the way through there. The rest is not so important. And as I said before, if you want to use the collal to give it some extra strength, you can do that. I think this will be fine. So that's the front where it's raised, and I'm placing these down here, making sure they're in the middle and flush with the bottom. Got a bit of space on the side, but that doesn't matter because I was a bit generous with the bottom when I measured it. So then again, use your fingers, pop them inside to press this down, as I said, especially at the front. And the back as well a little bit. So I'll quickly show you how to stick these together. You can see mine are a bit wonky though. I cut the overhanging bits off, but you just put this on here. Ensure the next one's aligned the same way. So just stuck these up a little bit and then pressed the next one right next to it, and making sure they're flush at the front. You don't want these to be wonky, you want these to be aligned. Once I have adhered, you could also press it down just a little bit, but it might be easier to just put your fingers in and just press down there. And then the next one can go as well. And I found it easiest if they stand up straight, and then place it down there. And stick this on like this. So I'll leave this again to dry for a minute, and I'll do the last row of boxes as well, and then I'll show you how to stick these on. When it comes to gluing the second layer and third layer on, you've got options. So either you have them basically on straight on the other ones, but then they will be sticking out in the back. So let me just put the other one on. So if they're all sitting the same way, you basically have got an angle here and they're going back that way. Or you can move the second one a little bit forward so that this corner here is in line with that one, if that makes sense. Yeah, so basically they're all facing or all sticking out the same way, but then you've got them sticking out a little bit at the front, and that might not be a good look. So I suggest you stick them all on straight, so they're on one level here, and then when we build the outside box, we're going to allow for that. This is what I'm going to do, and I quickly do this off camera. So I've stuck all my layers on. I've used some bulk clips as well to stick these together, although I do recommend doing it layer by layer, because these bulk clips get in the way a little bit. But at last I got to use these beautiful bulk clips. Can you see? They've got whale tails, but never mind. For this though, I used the collal glue just because I had a really large area and I'm thinking about using this up. But I don't know whether it's the fumes from this glue. It took me ages now to figure out the outer casing, but I think I've got it now. And yeah, I'm hoping that when I share this now, that I don't have to pre-record it with new measurements. So for the outer casing, which is the sides and the top and the back, as well with some flaps that fold around the bottom, you need a piece of cardstock that's 11 7/8 by 8 inches. So I've taken a 12 by 12 sheet. This is not super thick. I'd say this is like a 210, 220 maybe. But because there's no weight on it, I think this will be fine. If you want something sturdier, obviously you can use different cardstock. And yeah, I just cut this down in the length to 11 7/8, and then obviously the width to 8 inches. So on this long edge, you need to score this at 3/8. Hope you can focus there. Let me just zoom in just a little bit for you. Score at 3/8 and 2.5, and then I flip it round and do the same on the other end. And I'm also doing the same measurements, the same scoring on one of the 8-inch ends. Yeah, so 3/8 and 2.5. So let me just zoom out again. I quickly do this on camera. Hopefully it won't be too long once I find my scoring tool. So as I said, 3/8 and 2.5. Flip it around. 3/8 and 2.5, and then flip it sideways. You can decide obviously with your pattern. I do suggest a non-directional pattern. With mine it doesn't matter what's on the back and the front. So again, 3/8 for the flap and 2.5. So quickly put my scoreboard away, and then I'll show you what we need to cut away. Because my pattern is so busy, I show you this from the back. I think the score lines are a bit easier to see here. So obviously we need to fold and burnish these all. Maybe not even burnish, maybe I'll just burnish the actual flaps. Oh no, I think I will burnish them all. Sometimes, depending on the cardstock, you get away with not burnishing them. but it's worth taking the time actually. So I've made myself a little diagram here so I don't forget to leave the flaps. So the easiest part is on these flaps here, you cut off little wedges again, just up to the score line. So then on the squares here, you need to cut on the score line. Do the same on the opposite side. And then let me just think. Let me just turn my diagram around, it's easier. That's what I've scribbled down here. So we just need to cut some flaps here. So this is where the score line is, and I cut about 1/4 of an inch next to it. If you want to, you can put a pencil down there, and I'm doing the same on this side. Just showing you this, it doesn't have to be perfect. So, and there as well we need to cut little wedges. Same on this side. And then we need to cut these squares away and cut some wedges here as well. So just like this, I'm doing this freehand. If you want to, you can go right across with your cut. So, and if I haven't forgotten anything, then that should be okay. This one looks a bit wonky here. That's just one side. Oh yeah, cut another little wedge here as well. Here and here. So that's our outer casing. I tell you what, I think it's because I cut on the score line, it's not very neat, so I'm just cutting the score line away here, just a little slither, make it a bit neater. So, and I think the best thing for me will be to build this outer casing. Oh, and another thing I will do, can you see when I fold these together, these overlap a little bit, so I will have to cut these wedges much wider. So you're actually fine by cutting right across here, the angle. So, and that one here as well. So now when they meet, they don't overlap. So I will just put glue on the flaps here. Just get that out of the way, and I will use my quick grab glue again for that. So I hope I'm doing the right thing by building it first and then sliding it over. I might regret it in a moment, but we'll see. So again, make sure I'm going to the edges, but not over. So putting the sides together here, give that a good press. And same on the other side. Also putting my finger on the inside and pressing the seam down everywhere. So I'm leaving that for a moment. If you want to, you can also put it on the tabletop and press it with your bone folder. Just making sure it doesn't come apart. And I could do with a little bit of glue there. I think it just shifted just a little bit there when I placed it down. And if you've got any glue sticking out, just remove it straight away and it will be fine. So yeah, I'm just leaving that to sit for a moment, and then I'll show you how we glue this onto this part. Before I glue the outer casing on, I would like to have a little strip that covers the bottom here. And I just want to show you a little trick. This is 1/2 inch wide, and I can't see the 1/2 inch measurement here because of the way my guillotine is. So a little trick is to, this for example is like 3 and just over 3 3/4 wide. So if I cut a little bit off, and I will cut it off on this and the one that I don't use, so go on exactly 3 3/4. Then I can now go on 3 1/4, and now I know that this strip will actually be 1/2 inch wide. Just making sure I've got it straight, top there, holding it in place, and then when I cut it, this should be 1/2 inch wide all the way through. I will now cut it just because this is a symmetrical pattern. I will cut off bits on either side. I tell you what I will actually do. Just let me put it this away and I'll show you. So what I can do to have that symmetrical is find the middle of the piece here, sit this down in the middle here, and then just keeping my finger on it and just bending it round the side to find where I need to score it. And I do the same here, a bit like you create a belly band for a card, and that makes it so much easier. And then I can just snip the sides down and fold and burnish the sides properly here. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I obviously cut these flaps down, so you just need a little bit to go around the corners there. So now we can glue this onto the case, but we only need glue on the 2 sides here and on the very front, because it will only catch the front here, because then we've got the slope. So we don't want glue on the whole lot there. So I will be using my quick grab glue again. I think again this will be the best one. I will pop these flaps to the outside so that they don't interfere. And as before, I'm not too fussed about how neat it is on the side or even in the back, but the front is important because that's the one we will be seeing. So just a little bit here for it to grab, and then here. Just enough to hold it in place. Don't even need anything on the edge there on the top, but it'll dry anyway. So now this is the bottom of this bit here, so I can place this down here, making sure, sorry you can't see that, making sure it's level there. Let me just, I've actually got a bit of space in the back, but it doesn't matter. Am I doing this right? Yeah. So I have don't want to do too much. Can you see I've got this level here with the top layer there, and now I can press the sides down, making sure that's level as well. Press a little bit into shape if you want to, but we want this to be flush. So pressing the sides down here, hope I'm in the shot. See, we didn't need glue necessarily there. Although see, that's a catch because the flaps won't keep. Ooh, yeah, we have to put a new bottom in. Am I doing this wrong? No, we don't have to. Ooh, I've done it wrong. Peel it back, because we need to have, oh, sorry about that. This is when your brain's going. So the front is right, but these panels have to be flush with the bottom piece there, because we want these to fold over, and I've done another mistake. It has to sit further to the back. So let me just peel this off. This is still wet enough to do that. Okay, little brain fog, because we have to, sorry about that, it has to sit so that this fits in there, and then we've got a bit of overhang on the top there. So, but because I've just peeled the paper off, I need to give that a little liner. So apologies for that. I'm not worried about the glue there, but I need to cover this up because this will be visible. So I'm just taking another piece of the pattern cardstock, and I will just quickly, possibly just here, do a little cover up. I'll do this quickly off camera. Okay, so I've covered the front and I've also covered the edges. I think it'll look nicer anyway, and I've figured out now how to do this. So again, I'm putting glue on, but I'm putting it on the side here rather than putting it on the outer casing. So I'm just lifting up, sorry about that, I'm lifting up my camera a little bit because I'm standing this up and then don't want to get glue on the camera. So again on the other side. Apologies if you find this tutorial a bit chaotic, it's just because I'm figuring this out whilst I'm building it, because I don't want to build it in advance because I only need one. And then as before, we're putting some glue here on the front. So, and now I've figured out, if I set this down like this, I can put this down here on the edge, and I want to have this level with the flap at the bottom. No, sorry, this is not how I did it. I want to put it on the side. Sorry about that again. So I'm setting this on the side here and sliding this in, and I'm trying to get this straight. Oh, it's already grabbed. That's the problem of the quick grab glue. It might be better to use the collal. Try to see if I can do it like this. So you basically want to put the edge there against the score line, and then I can lift this one up and do the same on this side, moving this over, but make sure it's moved again at the bottom. And it's catching, that's why it's not staying. This is the part that's the tricky one. No, let me take this out again and let me get my collal glue ready. So when you see me now, I'll probably have edited something out. I had 2 attempts with the quick grab glue and I realized it doesn't work because it is just too sticky. So I'm using my collal glue instead. I'm putting it on both sides of that panel because I need a little bit of wiggle room, and I'm using it straight from the big bottle. I don't mind. So, and I've something's dropped on here. It's not too bad because that'll be hidden anyway, but I should have covered my surface really. So I'll make sure this way around. So I'm setting this up here onto the side, and I'm lining the side edge at the bottom up with that outer casing. Can you see, with a score line? And I'm doing the same on this end here. So I want these flaps to be flush with that casing, but I might have to push it in just a little bit more. But I think it's fine when it's flush here and flush there. Can you see? Could push it out a little bit more in the back, and I think to do that I'm just using my ruler and I'm just putting this in and just pushing this out because I've got nothing there to grab. So can you see what I'm doing? So I'm just getting my ruler in, I'm just pushing this to the edge, and the same on this side, although that one's fine. So there is a bit of a gap in the back, but that's fine. That's the way this is constructed. Could potentially have put it back a little bit more, but it's probably hitting the top the top layer there, and this is why we've got a bit of a gap there. I could have left the flap a bit longer at the bottom, didn't think about that. So, and I think this is fine now. The other thing I did not take into consideration when I put the glue on, I didn't have to go that far to the front. So see if I can take that off whilst it's still dry, so it's still wet. If not, I can always place another little strip on the front. So keep that in mind when you put the glue on. You don't need to get that close to the front. I didn't think again. Yeah, I will just add another little strip in front there. So I'm leaving this to dry now. I'll tell you what, I will actually turn it this way around so that the weight sits at the bottom. And then the last thing, I can do this off camera. When it is dried, I will just glue the flaps down. So pressing this all down. Ooh, bit of a nightmare, but we got there. So, and I will also off camera replace this little flap, or just add another one so it looks neat. And then I'll show you the finished product. So my box is finally finished. I've moved all my pens in here in the order of their numbers, although I do prefer rainbow colours actually, but I think it'll be easier to find these. At the bottom, I put the flaps down, but I also put some clear tape down here just to keep the flaps in place. And I did not add another piece here on the inside. The glue wasn't really visible anymore, but yeah, I'm really pleased with this. So I will show you in a moment how it looks like on the shelf, but when I put it down now, these pens don't fall out of the front, but they're easy to remove. So let me get my camera set up to show you how it will sit on my shelf. So I'm trying not to wobble too much. So this sits on the top shelf here next to my desk. I showed this in my storage ideas video. I'm going to link to that below, and I can easily grab my pens here on the top shelf, and I can see all the pens I have. Yeah, I'm really pleased with this. If you like the storage container and my tutorial, in spite of the few hiccups, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.